you first log on to, when you first open up Reason 13, this is what you are essentially greeted with. You are greeted with the rack section, or depending on how you have your older versions of Reason set up, you might be greeted with the sequencer, the mixer. It just depends on what you have already set up. Some of your settings will carry over, but for the most part, if you are, first joining Reason, this is what you will see. So here is our rack. Intuitively, in Reason 13, you can add your device straight away onto the rack. You also have the option of going to, this is now a device pane. If you see right here, you have your devices. So you have the opportunity to go into your devices and you can select a device like that. So if you want an instrument, you can click on instrument, and this is different from the original browser. The browser has changed, and this is now a floating window. But if you're looking just for a device, then you'll be able to get a device from here. You also have some filtering options that you can do as well. So if you want, you can click on this and you can filter out what kind of devices you want it to show. So if you wanted to show Reason devices, VSTs, whatever you wanted to show, that's what it will show. So we can click off of Reason devices, and now we'll only see our VSTs that are installed, and vice versa. So for us, we're actually going to click off of the VSTs, and we're only going to show Reason devices. Okay. And then now there is another area right here under your devices section where you can select what type of device you want to create, right? So you got keys, loops, drums, orchestral, sample, sequencer, everything like that. So this is one way that you can do, you're adding your devices. Typically, I like to find a device that I want to work in or work with, and then I can just drag and drop it. So if I know I'm going to be using Mimic, I go to the browser, I can drag and drop it from the devices pane. So that is one way that you can do that. Or you can click on add a device from down here. You see on your rack, you'll see add a device, and you'll have these options to add an instrument. You can add what kind of instrument you want to add. Of course, you will also have access to your VSTs and stuff like that. Or you can just add Reason Studios devices, right? So these are the couple of different ways that you can, add a device. So if I want to add another device, I can come here and I can say, okay, give me a parsec, and that is how I can add a device. I also can add a device on the sequencer. Here's another button here that says add track, and that will give you the option to either add an audio track or go to your instruments and you can add an instrument as well, right? So if I want, then I can add a process piano, right? So now in my rack, I have 3 instruments. I have the Mimic, Parsec, and Process Piano. So that's how you can add devices inside of Reason. Okay, let's look at the brand new Polytone. Let's look at Polytone. Here's Polytone. I can just grab and drag and drop that in, and here's Polytone. Cool. If I want to add an effect, there's a couple ways that I can add an effect. I can come here to show insert effects, and sometimes I like to use this area for like dynamic things and like saturation or compression or limiters or gain or stuff like that. And for things that will change the sound of polytone, like a chorus or a unison or different things that will change the sound of this, I will instead, just add the effect to the device. But there's a couple options. So let's go for inside of the actual insert effects. We can right click on our mouse and then we can go to add effect, which will bring up the browser. So if I click this, it will actually bring up the browser for me to select what kind of effect do I want to add. Or I can right click and then I can go to effect devices, and then I can choose from Reason's devices, and then it will show me what I want to add in. So if I want to add in a pulverizer, I can do that. I can right click here. I can go back to effect devices, and I can add in a Ripley is one thing I was thinking about adding in. I can add in a Ripley here. I'm going to just choose a different patch because I like the default patch of Ripley, but I keep using it a lot. So I want to make sure that I just click off of there and just choose something totally different. So clicking on this guy. Come on, where are my patches? You should be able to just click on it like this and then pull up a browsing so you can get, there we go. Okay. I'll just put 1 against 2, give me a lot of feedback on it. Maybe less feedback. All right, cool. Let's turn the space on as well. Lots of decay, lots of size. And then I'm going to, yeah, like that. Cool. We're going to be changing this polytone patch as well, because I've used a lot of that polytone patch as well. So this is how you can add an effect using the insert effects. And then of course, also, if you want, you can use the devices pane. I can come up here to devices, switch from instruments to effects, and then I can choose the effect that I want to add to polytone. So let's say, for example, I wanted to add this polar, for example. I can just come over here, drag, and when I see that plus sign, I can drop it in, and it's added it to the device pane. To the insert effects pane. Let me see if I can just put it underneath. Okay, cool. So if I drag it and drop it underneath, then it will be in the rack, so to speak. So I like doing it the insert effect way, because it kind of keeps things tidy. It almost turns this into like a combinator, if you will, where the only thing you see is the device and you don't see a bunch of effects underneath it or something. But it's totally up to you. If you want to use it in that order, you definitely can, right? So that's adding in effects. So I can drag and drop from the devices pane, which is over here to your left, or I can right click onto the device itself and I can go to add an effect. I can add that in, sidechain tool. There we are, it's added it in. So now it's added it in. I like playing with sidechain with faster things. Turn up the duck amount a lot. Turn this on like. We got a lot of effects. A lot of effects actually working on this polytone patch. Lots of different effects are working in on this guy. Cool. So that is how you can add in effects onto your instruments. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete all of these different effects. Just added some effects to show you guys how you can add some effects. So we have instruments, we have effects. If we go over here to our mixer section, we can see there is our instrument here on the mixer section, and by default the fader is set to 0, as well as the master fader set to 0. So that's how you can see the metering of your sound in terms of your mixer. I like to change this mode to VU. That's something that I've just been doing lately instead of using peak. And that's just been helping me to, better tune and better, see my sound and everything like that. All right. So if you are brand new to Reason, something that's probably going to help you out in your music making is by using players. Players will, okay, come on, Chris. Now we trying to be professional. What are we doing? What are we doing? We can't have our camera tripping out. I should have just kept the camera off. All right. So if you are brand new to Reason, players is something that you might want to get into because they're going to be pretty helpful. Now, I'm going to pull up scales and chords and drop it on this guy. And so that helps us to just set our scale and our chord. We can set our scale to major, minor, or any of these other options that we have here. We can also choose the key, and then we know, okay, cool. As long as I choose that key, I know I'm going to be getting things within that key. So, right, so I'm going to choose F minor here, and like that. All right, so when I want to lay that down, I need to come over here to our sequencer. There's a couple of things that I can do to lay that down in our sequencer. The first thing we can do is come over here to our tap, and we can tap in the tempo that I just did. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and that gives us our tempo for what we were just playing. I can turn on my click, my pre-click as well. Turn on your click. You can use C. You can also use 9 if you have a number pad. And you can also hit Control P to turn on your pre-click. So there's Control P to turn on your pre-click. And of course, you can use your mouse and you can select one of those two. And now that you have that set up and you have a MIDI, if you have a MIDI controller, then you can just play that on your MIDI controller. So I was playing F, C, B flat, and E flat. So that's one way that you can play that in. Okay, so now we have those notes played in. I also, if I don't have a MIDI controller, then I can use the on-screen keys. If I use on-screen keys, I just need to see what those notes I was playing. So it was, I need to kind of play up here. Just play it like that. So same thing, we hit our record and then we can just play that in. I played the wrong note. We'll just play that in on our record here. And it will play it in. So you can use on-screen keys. You can pull that up with F4, or you can come up here to Window and you will see on-screen keys. Okay, on-screen keys. So for those that's like, oh wow, this is like a tutorial. It's like, yes, it's a tutorial. We take it all the way back and show you all of the ways that you can do everything. Okay, so the other option that I have, if I don't want to play on the on-screen keyboard, and I also don't want to use my MIDI controller, and I just want to use the edit area or the piano roll, as some people would call it, then I have the option to do that as well. What I need to do is create a clip. To create a clip, I just need to find the instrument that I want to use, which would be this instrument right here. And then I need to double click in this sequencer area. So if I double click there, it'll create a clip, create a clip, create a clip, create a clip. You get the idea, right? So I create a clip. I choose how long I want that clip to be. And then when I create that clip, it shows up in my edit area also. So this is new for Reason 13 because essentially this is what it used to look like. When you would create this clip, you would draw in your clip, and then when you double clicked into it, this would appear like this. Your edit area, your piano roll would appear the entire screen. It would take up the entire screen. But now you have the option to select how much of the screen you want it to take up. And then that way you can still see your sequencer while also changing something inside of the clip that you choose. So that's just an added, difference that they've done in Reason 13 that's not in any of the versions before it. So you have the option to, select the height for this edit area. And then you can come inside of the edit area and you can get to work, right? So we started on F. That's F sharp. So F, it was F, F, dun, 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 dun. Okay, so F, F, and then C. I think that C is too close. And then we went B flat. Okay. B flat. So all I need to do is double click inside of this area and it will give me a note. Okay, and then I can zoom in a little bit for these keys here. I can zoom in a little bit and make this a little larger if I want. Okay, for anybody with any questions, I will get to your questions. Just give me a minute. I just want to go through some of the tutorial first. And then we went back up to E flat. Now I need to get the rhythm of what I was doing, right? So we did dun to dun. That's too fast. another one. Oh, to duplicate, like right here, I'm just duplicating this note. So when I highlight the note, I can hit Control D and that will duplicate it across. And I can keep doing that as well if I want. I can just keep duplicating it across. And then once I have duplicated it across, I can still hold down Control, and then I can move this guy with left and right, up and down. So holding Control, you can move this with your notes. And then if you hold Shift, you can move it by like a large distance, right? Like you can move it in octaves, or you can move it across, you know, more as well. So Control is very powerful, especially when it comes to the piano roll. Control D, and then I can move this guy up an octave, down an octave. I can move it over. That's going to be very powerful for you. And that one is right there. One more. And I think I need another one. Bump to bump to bump to bump to bump to. Oh, I like that actually. Let's use that and do like a little. I like that. That's a little happy accident. So, pros and cons of the different ways that you can add in MIDI notes inside of Reason. The pro to being able to add it in the piano roll is that you can get very precise. You know exactly how it's going to sound because you're drawing it in and you're auditioning it, right? So step by step, you are getting it in exactly how you want it to be. It is time consuming. So that's the con. As you continue to do it and as you work with it, and if this is your style of creating music, then it will just come naturally and it will just happen very quickly, right? But for somebody that has a MIDI keyboard, it's a lot faster for you to get those notes in, but you do have the propensity to make a mistake or, you know, need to record it multiple times, just as you saw what I had did. So these are the pros and cons of the different ways that you can get MIDI into Reason. Okay, you can use it through your MIDI controller, your on-screen keyboard, or you can use it drawing into the edit area. Okay, when you want to get out of your edit area, you just need to press F8. Okay, F8 goes in and out of it, or you can also press escape, and that will get you out of your edit area as well. So now that I have this clip here, I'm going to press P. That's going to create a loop around this clip, and then it's going to start playing it. So that's why scales and chords is pretty powerful, because you can create these chord progressions even if you don't know what the chords are per se. Even if you don't know what the chords are, using scales and chords, it can set up those chords. And now that we have those chords, we can change those chords. So I can add more notes if I want. And, you know, if it sounds good, it sounds good. So I like doing that. And one thing that I also like to do is to edit the automation of these scales and chords, or to edit the amount of notes, or even inversion. So I'll hit edit automation, and I'll hit edit automation for inversion as well. And then what that will do is it'll create lanes on my sequencer. So here are the lanes that it created on my sequencer: number of notes and inversion. Okay, so if I double click on this, then I get the option to use my pencil tool, and I can move the number of notes that it is generating. So if I want it to be you know, at 0 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Like that, right? So I have the option to change how many notes that it is going to create. So I'm going to go 1, I want it to have 3. And then on the next one, I'm going to have it go to 4 notes. So I can change the amount of numbers. It'll do this automation to change the amount of notes that are playing. So let me see what I want to do. So what the pattern I'm thinking is I just want to change based upon the chord that's being played to give it some variation, you know. So depending on what inversion you have and you know how many notes you have, that could be something that you can do as well. And you could just go crazy with scales and chords. You know, you can really just get into this whole octave up, octave down, adding color. Color will change the notes altogether. Now we got some add 11s in there. So that definitely has given us a nice little chord progression there, you know. No, so using scales and chords and just many other players, you will have the option to direct record in the notes or to hit send to track. So if we hit send to track, what that will do is that will turn off our scales and chords. It will bypass it. And then when we go to the sequencer, oh, I moved everything. Sorry. Let me move this back and then I'll do it again. Let me turn this guy on. You're going to hear a lot of garbly noise. That's the background reason processing that's happening. And normally you wouldn't hear that, but the way I have my routing set up, you can hear it. So anyway, so here's the original that we played down here. And then here is what they look like in chords, right? So cool chords. And then what's cool about that, of course, is like now you can add other instruments without adding another scales and chords. You can add other instruments and use those same chords. So we can just drag and drop this down and use this for these chords for this instrument as well. Okay. So for MIDI notes, right, there are a couple ways that you can change your MIDI notes, and there's a couple of ways that you can change your MIDI notes, right? You can manually do things. Like if I highlight these notes, I can come in and I can grab this arrow here and I can pull these guys like this. You know, I can manually do this. I can manually shift these notes up, down, and things of that nature. Or I can use this note edit area. It used to be a part of the note tools, which would be on your F8 key. But now that we don't have the tool window, we have this situation, right? So we have position that we can change, length we can change, note we can change, velocity we can change. Okay, these are some things that we can change here. You also have access to this if you right click. So if you right click, you have some options as well. You know, the traditional cutting, copying, deleting, duplicating, but you also have some other tools that you can do. So you can mute notes, you can join notes. You have these note tools down here. Let me slide over so you can see them. So we have transpose, note velocity, note length, alter notes, randomize patterns, positions. Same thing that we have over here, but instead it's just a right click away. So if you're wondering, like, what's the faster way, or like, how can I start adjusting certain things? Like, for example, I had somebody ask a question on Instagram. They were like, hey, I used to be able to, you know, transpose all of the notes from the tool window. Now I can't do it. Well, to transpose your notes, you can do it over here on this side. You can choose how many you want it to be transposed by, and then you hit the button transpose and it'll transpose it, right? So that's how you can transpose all of your notes. Or you can highlight, right click, and then go down to that note tools. So I do like that. I think that that is something, as we get used to it, it'll definitely be faster. And this is what it appears like when you have this note tools thing. Essentially, it's like if they popped one of these out and it was just over here in the middle of the window. See how they look very similar? See what I mean? Like, oh, you just popped it out from here and now it's just in the middle of the window. But this is what it appears like. It'll come up, transpose notes. Okay, cool. And then I can choose to transpose my notes. I can go up an octave or down an octave. What I said last time was, if you're using Reason, it's going to help you to learn shortcuts. So the shortcut for this is Control up and Control down. Right? That's for like transposing. You just move the notes up or move the notes down. And if you want to do an octave, then it's Control Shift up and Control Shift down. But the tools, you know, not all of the tools have shortcuts. You know, alter notes, for example, doesn't have a shortcut. Note length doesn't have a shortcut except for join notes. But it doesn't do exactly what you would want it to do. So now let's get to what I wanted to do with this section. I wanted to come into note length, and I wanted to make it legato. And legato just means as the note comes to an end, it's going to stretch that note all the way until it reaches the next note. So then all of these notes will kind of be glued together. See that? You hit make legato, and now they're all kind of glued together. So it's just one continuous, you know, thing. Instead of it being so choppy, now we have this sound. Take all these bottom notes and I'm going to drop them down an octave. And then I'm going to copy and I'm going to put them all to the same note. I can do this by hitting this button, match values. When I hit match values, it's just going to put them all to the same note. And this is to create like a pedal note, a pedal tone, if you would. It's like, oh, I gotta find one that sounds good. But I don't want any of those. Just to show you that you could do it, because I don't like any of those. Okay, cool. And now we're gonna actually come in here and change this sound, okay? Because I don't necessarily like those default keys. Let's unsolo. like a really like strong flanger. Let's go add this like quartet. Where is it? The sweeper, and turn this to flanger mode. Cool. So now I want to add in, some more sounds essentially, without just using a bunch of polytone. And I know I haven't showed the browser yet, so let's actually take a look at the browser. So as we go in to add in our next sound here. All right, so when you open up your browser, you have F9. You also can do Control F, and that will just open the browser and put your cursor where you can start typing. So if you do that, that's an option for you as well. And I'm just gonna type in lead because that's what I'm looking for, and I'll just kind of look and see how the browser starts to work. So I typed in lead, and now it's giving me a lot of different options. I do have all types, so I might want to be a little more specific with that and say, oh, I want an instrument patch. So now that I've chosen instrument patch, I now have the opportunity to choose my category or to choose my tag. So if I want my categories, I'm not looking for a bass lead, maybe a synth lead. It doesn't have to be poly because I do want a lead. So I'm gonna choose lead. So there's leads, and then I still have all these options for my tags, but I can start to see how it has kind of given me some, filtered down options. Still a whole lot of options that I could choose from if I'm just choosing synth leads, right? And so that's where the tags really do start to come in and be handy. So if I say, okay, it's kind of thick what I have, the layers that I'm building up is kind of thick. So I don't want something that's going to be as thick as what I'm already building with the chords and the roads. So I need something that's thin. I also want something that is like airy. All right, so now I'm just down to two things, right? I'm just two things that I could possibly do. I have an option from here. Now that I have these two patches, my option that I have from here with these two patches is I can click and drag. That's one. The browser goes away, so I can click and drag and put it somewhere. That's one option that I have. I can double click, then it'll come up, or I can just select it and hit create down here at the bottom. Create. Okay, cool. Now it has created it. And those are the options that I have. Once I have it selected, once I drop that guy in, I can play it. If I select the folder, it goes into a browse focus mode. So it's browsing specifically for this instrument. And that changes the interaction with the browser. It changes it a couple of ways. First, we see that it has this orange, highlight that's happening, and it has highlighted the Maelstrom home folder. And what that shows me is, oh, if I'm looking for this device, patches, then this would be a good place for me to go to find those devices. But it doesn't have to necessarily be that, right? So if I want Maelstrom instruments, then that's why that's highlighted for me to go there. But I don't necessarily have to go there because I still have my browser up. I could just click on this one and now it will change to a different patch. See, I don't double click or it's just one click. Now I can change it and I can start, selecting it from there. I'm going to turn off airy because airy is not giving me the feeling that I want. And I'm going to use a different tag instead. So here's synthetic and thin. Okay, no, definitely not. Not what we were looking for here. Fast. Fast is a tag. Okay, let's see what we have for fast. That's more like ARP and not a lead, you know. It's not really a lead. So every time I change one thing of the tag, it's pulling up a different instrument. So it's pulling up a different instrument that I can use. So that's long. I can choose staff pick. So here's the thin lead synths that are staff picks. It's only 2 of them. That one sounds very utility, like it's very like you could use this in a lot of tracks. And then here's the other one. I can hear the use cases for that as well. All right, so these are some options that we have. All right, if I want to keep that sound, I do need to press OK. If I hit cancel, then Jazz Expressionist goes away. So we don't want Jazz Expressionist to go away. So we do need to hit OK. So we hit OK, it saves Jazz Expressionist, and now it's there. So let's play that in. We'll hit record and play that in, right? Let's do that one more time. I think I played it better the first time. I should have just kept it. Nice little lead situation. I'm gonna add in a little reverb here. A little reverb. That's a lot of reverb, but just add a little reverb. So I don't know if you realize, or if you notice, I should say, but this this instrument here, Jazz Expressionist, is very velocity intense. So if I put these velocities at the same thing, kind of increase them. If I make them lower. I think this is just like one of those great times to, you know, make a little velocity ramp. And then just that's not gonna work for me though. We kind of need it to be we need to change the range. So I just wanted to change from like 70 to 127. And then because it's gonna have this like increasing velocity situation, we're gonna have to do something with the level. room for like a little, you know, like a little intro section. And then this one, we need to have all of the notes. That don't work for me. Pull this up so I can see. Thank you. So now for this one, we can just set our velocities to just be the same. We just want the velocities to be set at 127. So we set them to 127. And we just set them all to be the same. So on our first one, we're ramping up. And then by the time it gets to this part, it's just full velocity. Cool. I think the cool kids would say put a compressor on there so that it's not you know, too loud. We'll turn our attack down, give it a little bit of output gain to compensate for the compression that's going to be happening. A little ratio, a little threshold. Here we go. I think it's bass time. Okay, now I think it's bass time. So same thing. Let's go in here. Let's clear out all of these filters and things that we got going on. So we'll come up here to this X. Let's get rid of these things. Clear those guys out. Instrument patches, bass. Oddly enough, I don't necessarily want synth bass. I'll be feeling these electric bass guitars and stuff like that, you know. Even though that's technically a synth right there. It's a synth bass guitar, you know, modeled to kind of sound like it wouldn't be. But anyway, this is a patch I used to use a lot. I used to use this one a lot. I would turn the treble down like this. Use that bass a lot. So for old time's sake, why don't we go ahead and use it? Here at the end, so rather than re-recording, I'm just going to quantize and fix the notes that I play wrong. So these notes are not B flats, they're supposed to be E flats, and then these notes are not C's, they're B flat. For that bass, so we feel that bass, you got to put something on that bass so you can feel that bass. You know what I'm saying? You got to put something on that bass so you can actually feel that bass. So we're going to switch from instrument patches to now effect patches. And we still should have our same filters. Oh no, we don't have any filters now on effect patches. So now we're going to choose some effect patches that we want. We want to choose for bass, essentially. So let's hit bass and filters, EQ, and dynamics. Okay, that's all of the things that we want for this bass. So we have a couple different options here. These are, you know, tried and true. You know what I'm saying? They just put you where you want to be. But I also want some amps later too. So we're gonna add in some amps later as well. But for now, I'm gonna use this. I like nasty bass. I like what it does. Let's go deep bass. Let's go deep and see what that. I added in 2 deep basses. Let's delete one. Let's see what this is. We'll bypass it so you can hear the difference. And then one thing that I used to do is I used to open these up so I could see like what is it that they're doing. And so this is what they're doing. This is what the patch is doing. So it's not just a volume increase, but it's an increase in the EQ, right? It's an increase in the EQ in certain sections to really give you that rumble. And also, depending on, you know, which one you choose, it's going to have different things. So like this one has a stereo imager to make it have a wider sound. So this is the deep wide bass. I think we can make it even wider now that we have stereo tool. Now that we have stereo tool, we can make it even wider. Let me see. Reason, stereo tool. And we can make it even wider. An option, right? It's like it's cool to just experiment and get some things testing out. So stereo tool does exactly what it's supposed to do. It definitely made that bass super wide, right? So it's doing what it wants to do. Okay. Have a couple of different things that I'm thinking about in terms of drums. I might go Reason drum kits, or I might just go with a drum loop. I think I might want to go with a drum loop. Okay. So let's go back into our browser and let's go to Rex Loops. We'll go to Rex Loops. We want drum loops. Okay. And the style I'm looking for, well, I don't want to go with style first. The last time I tried it, I tried to sort by date. It didn't really feel like it did what I was trying to get it to do. But if this is accurate, then what we're saying is that these are new patches. But I don't know. I don't feel like that's what that is actually doing. I don't think that these are all new. See, this says it's been updated 6/18/2024, but I think that's just, I don't think those are new. But anyway, so here's some deep house. I didn't really want to go deep house, even though I wanted to go like a hip hop kind of situation. So let's see if we can find some hip hop. Yeah, like these are definitely all older. I might use that just as a loop and then do some other stuff to it. Nah, that ain't hitting the groove like I want it. That ain't doing it. Let's go redrum. That ain't doing it. Let's go redrum. We'll add in some drums. Now I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. Adding in these drums from samples from the browser. Let's see how it goes this time. We'll see how it goes this time. Okay. All right, here we go. Okay. So I can click, drag, drop it over as I'm listening to try to find something. Let me see. We got some drum loops in here. Because I like to have a nice little top drum if I can find one. So that one almost made it, but we just need to actually stretch this guy to fit. Look at how much it just needed to be stretched by. Not even a whole lot, but if you have a drum loop like this, like when you drop it in, it doesn't fit all the way, you just hold control and, you know, make sure that your snap is set to bar. So, okay, we got snap set to bar. You got an audio loop like this. You can just hold control. The little time clock comes up, click it, drag it. You don't drag it too much. Just drag it to where it fits within your loop, and that should set your timing up to be where it needs to be. Actually don't like this little drum fill thing that it's doing. I think what I want to do is I'm gonna set this to half. I'm gonna just cut this one out. Yeah, I'm gonna change the positioning of them. So instead of it doing it right here, I wanted to do it at the end. Okay, so these I'm gonna switch, and then that way it only does that little snare roll at the end. The rim shot, but I'm gonna do something else instead of that. That just give me them tempo vibes. So for these drums, let me see. I'm gonna add in one more like snare item or something of that nature. So I don't know if you're noticing it, but I'm noticing it. So with the browser, it takes time, right? Because it's loading up all of your files and things of that nature. So you might need to just take a second. So like for here, it's looking like drum loops, but then it pulls up the other folders. See the timing of it? Right? It's like takes time for it to come in, and then we go to the drum kit folder, and then it takes time to come in. So you just want to just get the rhythm of that feel. So that's what I was saying earlier. Before, when I was trying to use this browser to select drums and stuff like that, it just kind of I didn't want to click on the browser focus for redrum. I didn't want to do it. I kept wanting to just pull up the browser without the browser focus, because every time I did it, it would reset my positioning of what I was looking at, and I didn't want it to do that. I wanted to just stay in the place that I was looking at it, right? And so it wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. Okay, Okay, so I'm still navigating, this situation. Still navigating this situation for sure. 1 second. Oh, hello. All right, we're back on. Okay, so I wanted to do one more snare. Let's use that again. Let me use one more snare. I'm gonna go to this folder. Wait for it to open up. There we are. All right, cool. It opened up the folder. Now I can go to our snares. Ooh, that makes it different. So we've been playing in our MIDI for a little bit. Let's go back into our player situation. So we can always right click to add our player as well. So if we right click, we can just hit player devices and we can add it in. I'm going to use drum sequencer, but I also want to show you here. So if we pull up our players from our devices pane, we go to players and then we can find the player that we want and drop it on top of the instrument, right? So above it, I should say. So where's our drum sequencer? Drum sequencer is here. We can just add in drum sequencer right there. I'm gonna go ahead and reset this device and then we can start adding in our drums. I like the slide function of drum sequencer. I like that you can increase the slide of these instruments and that'll like move like where they are as they're being played. So if I increase the slide a lot, you'll see like it trails. It just changes the position of how it plays in. So it just adds a little bit of tick into everything like that. Drum sequencer, there's also probability, so I can add in some different parts or some different MIDI notes and then I can change the probability. And that's just the difference between if you're creating it using the edit area, like if I'm using the edit area and I start dropping in notes here to play, then it's just gonna play on those notes. There's no way for me to add in probability or to change the pattern or to give it some variation. But if I'm using this player, poly step sequencer can do it as well. Pattern mutator can do it somewhat, and of course drum sequencer can do it. You can have this probability here. So then if I set this probability to, pretty low, if I'm at 26%, then that means it's not going to play every time the loop comes around. It's not going to play. And I can do the same thing with some of these other notes. Or I can just add in some notes here, right? So if I add in some notes and change up the probability, then we can just get some different, patterns there. So that's a whole different pattern. And if I don't want to guess it, or if I want to just keep that pattern, then I can hit send to track or even direct record, right? And as I hit send to track or direct record, then I know that it's being baked into the sequencer, and I don't, because it's that probability is going to change where those kick drums come every single time. It's going to change where those kick drums come. So if I hit send to track, let me stop talking. If I hit send to track, then it only runs through that probability run one time. So that pattern has been set. This is the pattern that we got from there. And if we want, what we can do is we can move this guy and we can come back to drum sequencer, turn it back on, and then we can run it again. And now we have a second pattern, right? Same drum pattern that we did, but the kick drum is going to be slightly different. So, but now we know that these are set every time that it plays through, because you could do one or the other, I guess. I'm just kind of getting in my head about it. You could do one or the other. You could have this set pattern that repeats throughout the track, or you could just leave it and let Reason decide the probability for your entire track, right? And so, some people will like that, some people won't. Some genres, that's totally perfectly fine for you to have that be the case, where it's like, every time you export the beat, for example, every time you export the beat, you could end up with a different kick drum pattern. So you could end up, imagine that. You could end up sending, say like we took this track, exported it, and we sent it to 3 different artists, but all 3 artists have a different kick drum pattern. Similar, but different, right? It's just, that's what you would end up doing if you just left it up to the probability that you set here, right? You could have some where all of those kick drums are playing. You can have some where, it plays different patterns. So you can always end up with a different pattern. Like no 4 bars of the track would be the same. And so that's cool, up to a certain extent for me. I don't want it to happen the entire song, but if it's like that for the hook and then it's like that for the verse, or if it's like that for parts of the hook and parts of the verse, then that's cool. So that's why I like stuff like drum sequencer, in order to do stuff like that. And then also you take your brain out of it, right? Like I could play it and like come up with some different things, and I might be on point or I might be off point. I could do my finger drum and have fun with it, but it just depends on what I'm going for that day. If I'm going for fun, or if I'm going for, to be technical, right? You know what I'm saying? It just depends on what we're doing. And of course, the same thing with the hi-hats, with using them to use the nudge feature. But you don't have to use drum sequencer to do the nudge feature either. For example, we can come in here to our hi-hats. This is something that I do a lot. If you double click this right here, it will highlight all of them. You see that? Let me go back. If you double click, and a lot of DAWs do that in the piano roll. So that, just check that if you've ever wondered. So if you double click, you'll highlight all of the hi-hats, and then you have the option to use this positioning. You can change the positioning right here. See, you can change the positioning, and now Reason shows you how it breaks down. So the first one is by bars, beats, 16ths, 1/16th, and then this is by ticks. So if you just want to move it over just a tick, if you just want to move it over just slightly, then you can just adjust this. And how much ever you adjust it is going to show how much you've actually moved it by. And you kind of think of it like percentages, if you will. Because once you go to a certain amount, it's just going to move not by ticks, but by an entire 16th note. So it's like a percentage of how this thing is moving. But so we dialed it in on drum sequencer. I think the number we dialed it in was +12. So it's +12. So if I wanted to do the same thing in the sequencer, I would come over here to my ticks and I would just move this to 12. So if I move this, I can double click. I can come in here and change this number 12. Okay, cool. So then all the notes will be moved right to 12 ticks or whatever. You also could do that in Regroove. Okay, Regroove is another place, and the purpose of it is to have your music not sound, computerized or robotic. not every snare needs to hit on the one, right? Not every, some things, like, I like to have it where it's like a nice little layering. So it's like some elements are spot on. They hit every single time on the one. They hit every single time on, whatever. Some things are spot on. Some things are extremely loose. So these hi-hats are kind of loose. I might add in another element that's extremely loose. So it's like within all of the rigidness, there's this loose element, and then everything in between. So you just kind of create a layer like that. So with Regroove, you can do that as well, because Regroove has some programmed, it has some programmed patches that you can use that changes the groove of your sound. It changes the groove of your drums, your piano, whatever it is that you're playing, your bass guitar. You can use these different grooves, okay? Now, for Regroove, I do like the new browser, because the new browser will let you actually search for Regroove patches. And before, it was a little tough to find Regroove patches. So shout outs to that. I do like that. I'm able to actually find these Regroove patches. Okay. And so with Regroove, they have different styles. MPC 60 has a lot of those shuffles. It has hip hop styles, reggae styles. All of these different styles are things that you can, choose from. And then as you choose from them, you can drop them in and see what they sound like, right? So right now we have straight, and then this is how you would activate it. Right now, and this is our Regroove mixer down here at the bottom. If I come up to our lane, let's drop some of this stuff out the way so we can see. So if I come up here to my drum pattern lane, here's lane 2. And right here, I can select a groove. So I can open this up, and I have A, B, C, and D as banks. So bank A has been selected. This has a couple of different things that we can choose from. So I can choose straight. And now I've applied that to this entire lane, okay? And not a whole lot, right? But if we choose something else, we can hear something different happening. So now there's some shuffle, there's some push, some pull to certain instruments, right? There's some things happening, okay? Same thing if I change it again. Now super, right? Lots of groove in there. Lots of groove in there. We can change over to this MPC 58 shuffle, You can just change it, right? So maybe I don't want that much shuffle. Maybe I just load it up for like 51. And it's subtle, but it's there. Oh, I guess the last thing about the Regroove mixer that I didn't talk about, if I choose one of these, one of these ones that made it sound very like shuffled or very harsh, I can choose it, and then I can select the amount that I want to use. So I can, instead of 100% of the groove, I can select 50% of the groove. Hear like at 100%, it's a lot of shuffle, and I usually just do it like that. I don't usually play around with the in-between values. 25, 50, 75, 100%. So 100%, if I want to still have a lot of that characteristic, I'm going 75%. If I want to have a mix between the two, makes sense, right? We'll hit 50%, but I don't play around with like 44 or nothing like that. I usually just go right there. Like, okay, I want 50%, 49%, hold shift, and I get my precise values. 50%, I think that'll hit, what I'm trying to hit. let's actually save this guy. We'll save this as Reason 13 live tutorial. Awesome. So for this intro section, you know, when it's time for sequencing, in this intro section, we're gonna kick out the drums, and I'm gonna change this bass line as well. We'll just have the bass line be something simple. We'll just have it just, you know, get real simple with it. Cool. Just make something simple there. So we have a secondary bass line here. But I do need to fix this. I think this needs to go down to C. Halfway there, we gotta switch these up and change this. Do. Switch that one down. So there's our little intro situation, and then let's also just do something with this progressive pluck as well. Cool. So we'll switch from layer B to layer A. So we'll go ahead and get this highlight right here. And yeah, we'll switch from there like that. Do a nice little automation here. So we'll see it kind of go from layer B to layer A. So I was hearing something with some trombone, and I think in this hook area, but I need to go to the actual what I'm looking for. So I'm gonna close out all of this stuff and go to the orchestra. Yes, there we go. And we'll go into brass and give me this. Give me this. Give me this. I think I want the one. I don't want the one that's trumpet section. I want the one trumpet. Yeah, like this. Did I get it? Did I get it recorded though? We got it recorded on. Dun, 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 dun. Space it out a little bit. That's what I want to do. I want to space out those sections. To brass, man, you gotta put some layering. So now, as we're kind of building out, what we're essentially doing is kind of sequencing a little bit and building out the track. We got the main vibe of the track. We got the main chords. We got from here I might like duplicate this and maybe like create in terms of the patch that we use. Maybe duplicate this and choose a different patch or something of that nature. just to kind of add it in and layer it up a little bit. So that could be something that we do. I might decide to bring that in on the second half of the verse here. But we're adding in like this brass section to kind of add in some ear candy, add in some more elements to the track. But really, the foundation of the track is there. The bass line is there. The hook section is there. The vibe is there. The bounce is there with the drums. We got the top drum loop going. We got our drum loop going with our main kick, our modern drums, you know, as you would. So we got a little bit happening here. For the Chris Reed style, only thing missing is like an 808. So we replaced the bass guitar with the 808 section, right? Or we change the synthy sounding part of the track and make it sound more acoustic sounding. So we add in piano versus the synth that we were doing, right? Maybe do a piano part instead of the synth that we were doing. So and then just use a more simplified version of this piano from Process Piano. Use a more simplified version of it, and Reason stock for the win, you know. Only thing really missing there is some something to make it sound a little, you know, lively. I'll put this Audiomatic here, and then give me another Audiomatic. Just gotta make sure that it's actually okay, cool. Get rid of this one. So the main. There you go. There you go. There you go. There you go. We didn't get rid of this one. You know what? They had like a more like piano-y sounding polytone patch. Let me see, go to keys. They had one that sounded very close to a piano, electric piano, but not that one. play some Michael Jackson. Ooh. Remember the days when I just would like do live streams for hours and hours on end? Give me that one. I'll take that one. Let me hear how that sounds. Actually, give me that, I thought I saw something say order. It doesn't sound good. Oh, man. I really like a lot of their sounds. I like a lot of these polytone patches. They sound so clean, you know, they sound so clean. But not what I'm going for this part. So, let me see. Let's listen to this for a second. I'll be right back. Now play it confidently. Do, 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 do. To do this one. Give me those chords. Give me these chords. All right. Looking for a little riser, a little sound effect. That I like the way that one sounds. That sounds cool. A little sound effect, to add in here. bass line? Where's the bass line? I don't want the bass line to have that. I don't want to have that. Throw a little screaming in. Not that much. Yeah, nice. Yes. Now for the pan, add me a little utility in here. Give me a little pulsar. That's arpeggiate. No, I want pulsar. So I'm just going to do some changes to this ID8 patch here. So I have a pulsar. So this pulsar, I'm gonna just attach this to the pan of one of these CVs. So you can see it starts to move from left to right. We can thing, I'll just add a little bit of low in there. Not a little bit. Sound like we getting into some smooth R&B now, you know what I'm saying? And it does come in. Comes in kind of harsh there. Here we go. So I'm going to change this up here. Pre-chorus, pre-hook. have to redo my shortcuts and favorites list. I'm gonna have to redo these. I feel like it's just a lot of stuff, and before I could see it a lot better, and now because of the floating browser, I need to like revamp. I need to restructure the situation. Now it's just like a lot to read, and you know, it's a lot. So in this effects, they have like a lot of different little effects and things that I like to use. So I want to find the ones that I was using though. Where are they at? I don't think it was in here. Reason library. Other tab. Sound bank. Other samples. That's new. That ain't got nothing to do with this track, but I liked how it sounds. Nice little organ would sound cool there too. Nice little. is not playing. All right, so sending my kick drums and my redrum to their own routing channels in the mixer, so that way they can have their own channels for the mixer. that piano a little smoother, you know. Smoother piano. So I think that we spent enough time on this track. Um, and hopefully by, you know, watching this and kind of seeing what we were able to do, you could see how you can create some beats and create some music inside of Reason. So from here, it's really just about copying over. And there's a couple of different things that we could do as far as sequencing, right? You have our hook section. Our hook section can just stay. We copy that over. We have our verse section, and we have this pre-hook section. So depending on what type of genre of music or depending on what you want to do, you could just copy the verse section twice, right? And then just have the verse be the verse, and then the pre-hook, instead of being a pre-hook, could then turn into a bridge, right? That's something you could do. And then you just have that bridge come in somewhere later in the track. So that's an option. Or we keep this kind of pre-hook vibe, and you know, it just rolls around, you know, as it rolls around. Sometimes music will have a pre-hook or, you know, a change up in the verse, where it goes some verse, and then a change of the verse. So it's like this 2-part verse situation. And then later there's a bridge also, right? So that would create a lot of variation in your music and would probably keep, you know, the listener pretty interested depending on, you know, the style of music that you're making. But it's not a mandatory situation. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave the sequence in pretty much how it is. We have our intro, and I'm going to change the color of this intro just so we can differentiate a little bit more from the intro to the rest of the track. So we have our intro, we have our hook, we have our verse, we have our pre-hook, and our hook that repeats at the end. We have some elements that changes it up and you know, allows us to see things a little differently. We have our brass section, we have our drum section. In our mixer, we're also doing some changing around of some things as well. So I wanted to put together our synths, our instruments, our acoustic sounding instruments, put all those guys together. I think this one comes over here actually, because this is just a low synth. It's a low synth that we were doing, and I'll call this the high synth that we were doing, just so I can, wait a minute. Oh, that's our pluck. This is our pluck. This is our main chord progression with the pluck, and then this is the high synth. All of these are synth sounds, and so I don't do this I don't do this all the time, but you know, sometimes I do, where I'll go in and I'll group sounds this way and give them their own you know, mixing channel or whatever. I don't do it all the time, but sometimes I will. So I'll come in here and say, okay, here's our synth. This is an effects. You can come in here with the synth too. Why not? You're an effects. This is an effects. We'll come in here. We'll slide you in there as well. There you go. Brass and, you know, piano and everything else. I'll go ahead and route this in to a new output bus as well, and name this, you know, instruments. You know what I'm saying? And since these are already gray, we'll put the channel to gray. And then this is just our bass. Lonely bass all by itself. And so I'll move my face out the way. So you can kind of see how we got it rocking and rolling. And I just kind of went crazy with the colors a little bit. Typically, I would have a more structured color situation, but it doesn't matter. That's totally up to you. So maybe do something like this, and then that way it'll kind of stay within a certain tonage, like red, orange, and then like this peach or something. This one should have been something darker. Oh, this should have been peach, and then this should be wheat. And then if we do it like that, then it kind of has a nice little, it's in the same color wheel, you know, warm tones. It's in the same color wheel of warm tones, right? In this little area up here. So that's how we can do that and put our bass. That's something else. And what are some things that I could do by doing this? I can use these individual buses, and I could do some processing to them. So since I have this individual bus, it's a drum track. Maybe I come in here and add in this master bus, and I've been doing this. I've been using this actually for a couple tracks, and I like what it's doing. So I'll turn my makeup gain down so that it's not influencing the gain of it. I'll turn my attack up kind of slow to about 3, the release very fast. Keep the ratio on 2, and then we're going to set the threshold to 0. But what we're going to do is we're going to play it until we're getting some gain reduction. So if we're getting gain reduction at 0, then we'll keep it at 0. We'll just see. I think I moved it again. I did. Okay, hold on real quick. I'm going to play from here. Just, you know, just kind of taming those sounds. But I'll do the same thing for the other buses. You know, I'll come in here, I'll go to the synth bus, and same thing. This same style of using the master bus compressor, turning this makeup gain down. Same settings, you know what I'm saying? Same settings, and then seeing where it's going to. my bus channels. Put all my bus. I like to put my bus channels on this second rack here. How do I get rid of this third rack, by the way? I don't have anything on there, do I? Well, anyway. So I'll come over here and find all of my, put them over here just so that these buses, I have 4 buses. Okay, instrument bus. Because sometimes you want to do things with these different buses, right? Or even like with this bass. I'm going to slide this bass over here as well. I'll slide that bass. Let me see that I catch everything. I did. All right, cool. So we slid everything over. Great. I'm going to just copy this up. Hit control. Let me slow down. So this master bus compressor, I'm just going to copy it up. I'm going to grab onto it, hold control, shift, and then drag it up and let go. So now it's been copied over to the brass. And yeah, all of them have a master bus compressor. Great. My bass was doing something else. Now, I did have somebody ask me recently to do a tutorial on using the sidechain tool. And I'm just going to be honest, and I'm going to say I prefer to use the mixer section. So I'm going to show you that first, because that's what I prefer to do. And then I'll show you how you can do it with the sidechain tool. Okay. So first of all, let's locate our kick drum. Where's our kick channel? Okay, here's our kick channel. There's a couple different ways that you can do it. First and foremost, you can take this parallel out and physically drag it. So click and drag and go all the way up, just like you would, you know, we're going to take this cable and we're going to drag it up, drag it up, drag it up, drag it up. I'm going to show you the other way, but you know, there's a lot of different ways that I could do this. I'll drag this guy up till I get to this bass, and then when I get to this sidechain input, then I'm going to connect it. And you'll see that key turns on, and then when I go to the mixer, you'll see this is the dynamic section for the bass. That key is on, and I can turn on the compressor, and then I'm done. That's it. Send the parallel out from the kick into the sidechain input of the dynamics for that rack, and that is it. Now, if we want to be dramatic, we can turn our threshold down, turn our ratio up, and now we have a very dramatic setting for this situation, right? So you can see every time that kick comes in, it's just killing it, right? We can turn up our release, and in that way it won't be such a choppy change. Or you turn it down, you can see how that affects that. So it's still very harsh, right? But even having your release down like that, it will help to kind of just activate the compressor and then deactivate the compressor immediately. So that's what that quick release will do. I already have the attack set to fast because I wanted to just, you know, this is a very aggressive setting that we have it on. But we can start to ease up on some of these settings. And as we ease up on these settings, we'll get a reduction. But we don't want it to sound like the kick drum is like, you know, literally kicking the bass player in the stomach, and every time he does it, he like drops out the sound. So, you know, instead of having our ratio set to infinite, we'll tune our ratio down a little bit. You know, we won't go so extreme. Maybe like a 5. Maybe like a 5-to-1. And as you can, it just already tunes it, you know. So by having the threshold so far, you know, by having the threshold this way as much as it is, it's just activating it every single time because, you know, it's just like, boom, we want it to activate. But the ratio is controlling how much of it, you know, how much of it is activating. The ratio is controlling that. Okay. So that's how you could do it with that. And if you want, you can play around with these. This really would be how the settings would be to do this. You know, if you want that kick to take out more of the bass, then you can do that. Also, by setting up our our buses like this, we could then send the kick to do that to everything, you know, individually or independently, right? So we can not just for our bass line side chaining, but you can set it up for the entire track if you want. If, for example, you wanted your kick drum to be the star, you wanted it to shine a lot brighter than the rest of the track, you could do that. And you can add in and take away how much of that ratio you want to make it subtle and unsubtle. So that's how you could do that using, if you flip the rack and you use that, that's how you could do that. Now, I'll remove that from the kick drum. I'll show you, instead of doing that drag thing that I did earlier with this kick drum, where are we at? Kick drum, I can right click right here, and then I can choose it from this drop down list. And then I just have to find it in this drop down list. It's like, oh, okay, where is it? So it's the same thing, but you just have to actually find it. So here is bass. Here is bass, sidechain, input, left and right. Okay. And then it's going to snap back to that same place that we had it at earlier. Okay. So now I'm going to show you guys how you can do it for the sidechain. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Yeah, okay, I got you. All right, so I had to go do something real quick. Apologies. So if we want to use the sidechain tool, that's what we were doing. So sidechain tool, so we have our bass right here, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to set it up so that it doesn't interfere with any of this stuff and we can just see it by itself. So I'm going to give the bass, I'm going to give it its own, I'm going to route it to its own output bus as well. Okay, so here's our bass. Bass has its own output bus, so we can just see it. There it is right there. Here's our bass output bus, and in here we're going to go ahead and add in the sidechain tool. Now that's not necessary, that's just something I'm doing so that you all can see it, right? So here we go, we've added that guy in. If I just play it by itself, you'll hear the sidechain tool is already activated. Because that's a feature of the sidechain tool in general, right? This is how sidechain tool works in general. That's a feature of Sidechain tool. Interesting. This is a way that you can do it. Okay, so we have sidechain tool is on. It's already just pumping. It's doing this gentle pump thing. Okay, there's a couple different options of what you can do in terms of creating that sidechain that's linked to the kick drum. So auto pump is not going to work because that's just going to be pumping forever and ever always. But you need to set it to trigger or sidechain. If you set it to sidechain input like this, then you might as well just do it through the mixer, how we did it earlier. Okay, if you're going to use the sidechain, the only difference that this does for you is it allows you to see visually. Same thing with trigger. It allows you to see visually what does the shape of your sidechain look like, right? But it doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily better or worse. It's just when you're using the mixer, right, it's a lot of dialing things in. You're dialing these knobs in. You're not seeing it graphically. You're not seeing what's happening. It's like you're dialing it in and you're fine tuning it. So just a word about that in general. So if I want to set this up, I need to set it to trigger, and I can do two different triggers. So I can do an audio trigger. And if I want to set that up, then I need to connect this sidechain input to my kick drum, same way that we did it earlier. So I'll find my kick drum, parallel out of the kick drum, and connect it to sidechain input. Okay. So now if I go over here, I'm gonna go over here and highlight the drums, specifically the kick drum. Okay, let me get somewhere in my sequencer so we can just play this guy real quick. Here we go. So you see what it does. Every time that the kick comes in, that's when it activates this side chain. So now we have the same similar settings, okay, where it's like, okay, how much do I want it to duck? This would be your quote unquote ratio. So if I turn this off, then it won't duck it. See, it's not ducking it at all now. I can start adding in. We have this attack area, which is going to be the front end of it, and then also the release. So remember, we showed you release. If I have it like this, it'll be a lot choppier. Or I can turn the release up. So we definitely don't want 100% ducking amount. So we have to find that sweet spot where you can hear it, you can audibly hear it, it's ducking it, you know? And then it's like, all right, now how long do I want it to duck? I need to adjust this hold value because it kind of seems like it's like holding it for a long time. The reduction in sound, it's kind of holding it for a long time. So I'll exaggerate it so you can hear what I mean. So here's it kind of long. So it never really comes back up. But if I pull it this way, then you might not hear it reduce at all. So let's pull it up a little bit. Maybe turn up our ducking amount a little bit. So that's how you can do it if you're doing it by the audio trigger. Then there's also a MIDI trigger, which means you don't have to flip this at all. You don't have to flip this and input this at all. And whatever your setup for your sidechain is, it will be attached. It will start or be triggered by a MIDI note rather than it being triggered by the audio coming in. So it doesn't matter how loud or soft, because MIDI notes don't show how loud or soft something is. And instead what it will do is it will just trigger for the sidechain to start. So the only other thing we need to do to set this up is we need to right click on sidechain tool, and we need to create a track. So we create the track, and when we create the track, it'll bring us over here to our sequencer. Okay. And we'll be able to see the track right here. Here it is, gentle pump. So this is the track that's going to activate the sidechain trigger. From there, we can find our loop. So here is our loop right here. And we could just copy this entire loop. It doesn't matter that other MIDI notes are in this loop. It doesn't matter, because the only thing that's triggering the sidechain is going to be C1. That's the only thing that triggers the sidechain. So it doesn't matter that these other notes are in there. It just needs to be notes on the lane for the sidechain tool. So once you have those notes there, you'll see that it starts to play. It's triggering. See, now it's triggering. So it does not matter that it doesn't matter how loud or soft the kick drum is. It's just triggering this sidechain to start. It triggers this volume reduction to start as soon as that trigger comes in. And of course, you can speed up and slow down that trigger as well. You can also change the note that that triggers it, right? So if I come in here, it was on C1. But if I want, I can change it to say trigger like F sharp, right? So if we go to F sharp 1 and we use that to trigger it instead. So we're going to go up until we get to F sharp 1. Now you're going to hear a different trigger. Because now it's being triggered by these like hi-hats. So as we go down the MIDI notes, we can choose what is going to trigger it. So C1, typically C1 is where most kick drums will be. If it's in a drum set, if it's on a redrum, but it also depends on where you put your kick drum. That's where I put my kick drums. If I'm using redrum or Kong, I'm going to put them on C1. And typically, some others are on C1 too. If you're using redrum and you copy it over like we just did, it's setting the kick drum on C1, right? There are other edit modes like drum edit. So here's what redrum typically would look like or whatever. When you have the redrum window, it kind of looks like this, where it just says notes. It doesn't say C1, C2 or anything like that. Or even better, if we come over here and click in here, you can see it. Here it is. It actually shows the names of the different drums. That's what that edit mode looks like. But this corresponds to C1. So anyway, so that is how you can trigger it based on notes. All right, now let's get out of the solo, clear solo. So let's listen to it. I'm gonna turn up that ducking amount a lot so we can hear what it sounds like. So it does matter how much the ducking amount is set by. So I'm still getting used to I'm still getting used to the placement of the edit area, still getting used to the browser, still getting used to some of those things when it comes to creating music in Reason 13 specifically or particularly. But for the most part, from 12 to 13, you're getting the same experience. There are some cool things in terms of like, the different tools, the different instruments. We didn't use Ripley a lot in this track, but we did use Polytone, and we used Sidechain tool, Stereo tool. Really like how Stereo tool was able to instantly widen our bass guitar, just to give it a different kind of a feel, a different kind of a different kind of feel. And gain tool is really cool to use as well. There's some different things that you can do with gain tool outside of just adding in more gain. Gain tool in its own way, because it can shape your stereo field. So a lot of times for the master, I'll use gain tool to either boost my stereo field or kind of make it smaller, just depending on what I'm listening and how I'm hearing the track. It's like, oh, I panned a lot of stuff, let me tone some of that down so it's not just so crazy stereo, or it's like, oh, it's, everything's kind of sounding a little too focused, a little too narrow, let's kind of open it up a little bit. So that's one way that I'll use gain tool as well. And then in terms of sound design, you can use that crossfade feature in gain tool. You can use that as well to kind of create some different sounds and do some different things, switching back and forth between the sounds. I could see like even setting up like a weird DJ vibe situation where you're mixing back and forth between the two sounds. Maybe we'll set something up for that, and we'll check that out. But yeah, that would be our tutorial essentially on Reason. From here, it's just like mixing. That using the master bus compressor as an effect for each of these different buses. I think that is like a tool or a technique that you can use and see if that works for your music. I just noticed lately I've been doing it and I like it. I like it. It's kind of helped me to shape some of my music I remember a long time ago, I would just go through on like each and every instrument track. I would put some kind of compressor just cause, and it was kind of like, you know, then I would level things and stuff like that. So it's a similar setup to use that compressor on each of these channels and things like that. This is not leveled. Every time I play it, the kick drum is just crazy loud. So every time I play it, it's peaking every single time. So it's not leveled. If I was to level it, and then what I would do is, let's save this as something. Let's save it as perfectionist. You know what I'm saying? And it's not C minor either. It was F minor. Yeah, it was F minor. 81 BPM. Okay, and then I'll put mix. So I'll save it like that, right? We're gonna come in here. We're gonna grab everything and turn our faders down. For our buses, we're gonna leave them like this. We're gonna put them, reset them to 0 by holding control. And just doing that, and I'm just gonna do like a super fast, like, you know, what it would be like for me. So I'm gonna come into my kick drum first. Let me set this somewhere where I can hear all of the sounds. There we go. I'll come in with our kick drum first. I'm looking for 10. I'm looking for 10, and I can kind of hear that it already has a lot of, you know, like sub in it too, so that's good. Like to put this here just for the negative 20 hertz, because even having this there is going to boost some of these. And then I'll come over here, I'll make this one a low, turn on E mode, and just give it a little nudge, a little 3 dB or something like that. Just give it a little nudge. Okay, cool. Turn these up. I had already changed something about this top loop. I added in this low pass filter. It had a lot of that noise, that dirt, and it does sound good. I like the noise, I like the dirt, but it just was a little bit too much. So we just turn on that low pass filter, kind of cut out some of that, you know, tame it a little bit. Cool. Let's add in this bass. I'm gonna remove some of that width. Oh, there's some other patches you can use for Sidechain Tool also. So they have some other patches, and they're already set for your audio trigger or for your MIDI trigger. So let me see. I might use one of these other ones instead. Let's set to all. think I like the other one I had better, actually. This one is doing for something else. Let's use this one. Yeah, that's what we want. Just a nice curve at the front end. I think for the rest of the the rest of the instruments, we need to switch over to this pre-hook so we can hear those come in. Yeah, we gotta turn these guys up now. Why does it sound like that? Don't start doing that. Don't start doing that. All right, cool. So I just wanted to make sure that I get that piano sounding where I wanted it. Okay, cool. So now that these have like a, well, let me just go through and check everything. So organ is cool. We'll take a little bit of this off for this Rhodes. Same thing for this Rhodes. Same thing for that piano. Take a little bit off and then add in some high. Yes. These brass instruments aren't really gonna have anything anyway. They're not gonna have nothing anyway in those low areas. So I think we're okay for that. Do 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 do. Cool. All right. Now, I got a master section. All right, so after I do that leveling and stuff like that, we'll go to our master section. And for this master section, we can do one or two things. We can put some things in here to shape sound, or we can put some things in here for leveling. So if we just want to increase our volume, I would start at gain tool, which is going to be effect utility. I would start at gain tool, and then I would go to the maximizer. And you can do hard clip or soft clip. I can turn off this limiter and then just go soft clip and then just increase that soft clip, so that way we're not getting any clipping. Oh, hold on. Sorry. My thing is doing some weirdo stuff. All right, here we go. And then just increase my gain. And what I'm looking for is for us to be at that 0. And even if that kick pushes us red a little, then that's cool too. So I can, increase our gain. We're pushing it now, like. So like for something like this, we kind of need some help to kind of know what effect we're getting. We see our VU meter, but it would be great to have some other meters that we can use to see some stuff. So I need to go back to my devices pane, because I do have these plugins turned off. So once I turn them on, now I can see the rest of my plugins. And I just want to use this Ulean loudness meter. Okay. And we're just going to use this guy. Let me see. We got gain tool right here. Essentially, I just need to tap into this master somewhere. Yeah, we can tap in just like that and tap into that guy. So now we're passing through the loudness meter. That's a lot of LUFS. And that's, you know, with gain tool just turned all the way up, right? So let's turn this guy back down to 0. And we can see where we're at. So, you know, we want to aim for -14 is what. So we're hitting -23 now. So we're going to increase our gain. We know we don't want to go to 18, but let's see, will 12 do it? So I'm going to save this real quick. I'm going to save this as a combinator, and I'm going to save this as loud. Well, I'll save it as leveling, and then we'll put, it hit like -13 LUFS, something like that. So we'll just save that just so I have it, and then I'm going to delete it. Okay, so that's just leveling, right? If it just, oh, we just want to do some leveling. We just want to, you know, increase the volume a little bit. And then actually what I can do is, let's bring that guy back. Okay. And so this was just gain tool and a maximizer, right? Just gain tool and a maximizer. So now I'm going to add in instead, I'll add in some other things to help us out. So M-class maximizer, I'm going to hold shift and then drag this guy up like this. I'm going to turn on this low cut, maybe add in a little bit of bass, maybe about 2 dB, go to my high shelf. Add a little bit of that high shelf in there too. I do like to do EQ sweeps. And what I mean by that is you come over here, you just find where there's some stuff you don't like. Maybe just remove a little bit of that. Okay, now we can remove some of this gain because our EQ kind of boosted our gain. Yeah. And then We used it already, but sorry, let me do this. Can put in another master bus compressor, and we can hold shift. I'm holding shift to bring this guy up as well. And just drop it here, and we'll set our settings like we did earlier. Set our settings like earlier, this time just straight to 0. Actually, I guess we can, oh yeah, we're coming before the maximizer, so that's where we want to be. Sorry, this thing is changing the sounds. It's not supposed to do that. Okay. Savey. Cool. So if the other one was for just for leveling, this one we actually did some stuff to our EQ. We actually we also added in a compressor, a master bus compressor. There are some different things you can do with master bus, the actual master bus compressor, the last master bus compressor, which was this one right here. There's some different things you can do with this one. For example, just sending like basically removing the bass frequencies from this compressor, and then that way it only catches those high, it only catches those high elements, those high, everything above a certain frequency. You can set it up like that. So we would be keying in the master bus compressor so that way it doesn't react to the lower frequencies. Like that's one thing that you can do for that one. But we've already kind of did a lot of that by giving each one its own master bus compressor. We've already kind of did some of that, so we don't need to necessarily do that on the final one. And for whatever reason, well, it's my MIDI keyboard that's doing it, and it's just very annoying. Cool. But yeah, that essentially would be what we would do for this track. Okay. Other than that, so that's if we wanted to use Reason's devices. Okay. Now I'm gonna delete this guy. That's what it sounds like with nothing in the mixing section. I also like to use the multi-band compressor from Reason, so I want to show what that sounds like as well, since we just kind of on the mixing leveling side of things. If I can find it. All right, I'll just come in here, effect patches, multi. Let me see, get out of here. Oh, I need to be in the Reason library, multi-band. Go to flat, find this multi-band compressor. There it is. Drag this guy over. And no, I don't want to. Sometimes I like to just use that. And I'll do the same thing with the equalizer, just kind of come in here and, fine tune some stuff. But that's pretty much it. You also can come in and fine tune these things too. So this is everything is in the multi-band compressor is separated by frequency or whatever. So this is 0 to 125 hertz. So I say, oh, okay, if I'm in 0 to 125 hertz, this is our bass area, and it's like, oh, it needs to be tamed a little bit more. It needs to actually be I don't like the bass. The bass is just too much. It's doing too much. So we can increase the ratio. We can increase the compression of just the bass, right? So we say, oh, we need this guy to. Just want that to be right. See what I mean? So you can do that. You can open this guy up and say, oh, okay, now do the same thing for the highs, you know, like, right, like, okay, like, yeah, I want that to also do that. And then for these lows, we want the attack to be slower, right? But for the highs, we want the attack to be faster, something of that nature. But, you know, so you go in there and you fine tune, you know, how you want these different things to sound. A lot of times I just throw on the multi-band compressor and then I turn up my master gain, and then I do some movements to our equalizer here to just kind of get things how I want it, right? So that's that. I think the one that I had before, I like that one, so I'm gonna just use that one. So to find out, I'm gonna go back to my user library. We can just get out of here, and we'll turn on our mixer. Yeah, we'll drag this guy in there, and we'll just use that one. Okay, thank you. I didn't want to, and then we'll just put that one in there. And that would be it, man. That would be, let me see, come on. Our little sound effects is not playing. What's up, sound effects? It's going to play like 13 sound effects later. All right, well, anyway, that would be that. There. All right, there we go. There we go. All the sound effects played at the same time. All right, and that would be our Reason 13 tutorial. Boom, biddy, boom, boom, booty, boom, boom. All right, so thank you all for watching. Oh wait, let me see. Let me pop this guy out real quick. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate y'all. Any questions or anything specific that you want to talk about at this time, let it be known, and we'll talk about that. So I did do a poll. I was curious to see. Oh wow, we almost had 7,500 subscribers. Shout outs to that. What version of Reason are you currently using? We got 50% of people that voted. 84 votes. Nice 84 votes. I like that. 84 votes, 50%, so about 42 people. 42 people said they are using Reason 13. Nice. 38% Reason 12. A lower value, about 8% are using Reason 11 or below. And then there are some people using light or essentials. So that's interesting. I wasn't sure if there was anybody using light or essentials. So shout out to you for participating in the poll. I got about 15 minutes left in the live stream. And I'm going to go through and look and see if I see anything interesting. If I see something interesting, then I'll respond to it. And if not, then that'll just be that. All right. Trying to protect my energy these days. These days, it's about protecting your energy. You feel me? Cheers to you as well, my brother. Cheers to you as well. All right, so I can't go all the way up, but shout outs to all of y'all, man. I'm gonna just take a gander at at the situation here. Yes. Legacy Music says they separated devices from patches. With the device pane on the left now. That's like the cleanest way that you can describe it too, right? It's like, oh, this is just for devices. This is just for patches. And then you just go at it like that. Because you can't pull up devices in the browser. Let me see, Reason Library. Yeah, what you're pulling up here, you're pulling up patches. So you're not actually pulling up a device, right? You're just pulling up patches. So I like the floating browser, but I also like the device pane to the left. I don't know. It's just something about the way Reason 12's the browser was. I liked it. So that's that. Okay, they're talking about some USB device stuff. Hey Chris, long time no see. Hope life was kind to you and your family. Cheers from Germany. Hey man, I appreciate that, man. Life is lifing, Life is lifing. So I don't know if it's kind or not, but it's lifing. Life is lifing. It's doing its life thing. I honestly prefer to use Reason on Windows, but needed a powerful laptop. I honestly prefer to use Reason as a VST because even with new changes, the sequencer and etc. really isn't good. I never had an issue with the sequencer because of the style in which that I create music. Let me see this. Cook, what up, Cook? Welcome to the stream. And Lunch Money says start a Discord. What's up, y'all? Shout outs to y'all in the building. I've never had a problem with the sequencer. I like Polystep sequencer as a player, and I still wish that they would bring those features into the edit area or into the piano roll. And I think that would be great. So Polystep sequencer, you can set your scales, you can create chords, you can, the ways in which you can manipulate the MIDI notes and the notes inside Polystep sequencer. That just seems like, the way in which things should be. So I do wish that they would do that. Cause I'm not big on like drawing in notes to, I'm big on piano. I'm big on playing, my instruments, guitars and whatever I'm playing. I'm just big on physically playing it. I don't want to just control my mouse the entire time, so for me, the piano roll sequencer is not a big deal. I like being able to launch into it. I can see how Ableton's design, how intuitive it is to create those cues. I can definitely see how that's a game changer. And it kind of is like, unless that is specifically copywritten and like nobody else could do it unless only Ableton could do it, I would tell all the dolls. It's like all of y'all need to, in some kind of way, shape, or form, create a launch system, create a cue system like they did. Not just Reason, but all the dolls could, you know what I'm saying, have some kind of feature like that. So a sequencer feature and a launch feature or whatever. But I digress. I couldn't go all the way to the top of the live stream. I wish there was a way that I could look for questions. I know that there is some kind of way, shape, or form. Anybody else see any questions that didn't get answered? I know there's a way that I could do it. I know it is. What if I did this? What if I took it and then I went to my documents? Yeah. And then just pasted that in. Okay, and now I want to find question marks. Okay, so I have a question mark from earlier. Chris Reed Beats on Radical Keys. You had a patch called Chorusing Tremolo Hybrid. Is that a default patch or from a pack? Let me see. What is it? Chorusing Tremolo. Reason library. I probably didn't spell it right. Tremolo. It's an instrument patch. I don't know. Why it's not finding it? Chorusing Tremolo Hybrid is from Radical Keys. No, yeah, it's from Radical Keys. It's a stock patch in Radical Keys. I'll show you real quick. It's a stock patch. Chorusing Tremolo Hybrid, Radical Keys. It's a stock patch. All right, cool. Where was I at? Oh, I was at the chat. I was on the chat. What the blue theme did to Reason. Blue theme was more of a night theme anyway. Yeah, blue theme is out of here. I didn't care for it. I like the dark theme. That's where I'm at. Are we still able to drag the mixer, rack, and sequencer on the same Reason window? Yes. On the same Reason window. Yes. Yes. The new browser is ugly and colorless, Sasha says. I do wish that they would add in some kind of something. There needs to be something there. That would be great. Okay, other questions. Is this all Reason stock sounds and instruments? Yes. That track was created with all Reason stock sounds and instruments. Aside from like a kick and a snare and a hi-hat and a drum loop. Those came from, I think Busy Work Beats has like a drum pack that you can download from the interweb somewhere. And I just been using that. It has like a lot of different samples and stuff. And I noticed that sometimes I switch between what library I'm using. So like if I go buy a new drum pack, I'll probably use that for like 3 months. And then if I find one for free, I'll use that for 3 months. And then if I find some new drums in Native Instruments, I'll use that for 3 months. And, you know, all in between, I'm using my own drum sounds and stuff like that. I'm using sounds from Reason's factory sound bank in terms of drums. There are some great drums inside of there. You can get creative with it. But a lot of times just for like certain styles of music, I might even use like a Reason drum kits over their drum samples, because I like Reason drum kits and playing the finger drums and doing the drum kits and everything like that. Okay, I'm looking at the different question marks. The reverb that I used is ROM from Native Instruments, ROM, and they have a delay called Replica. And this is from the reason why is because this is a stock template. It's a stock template that I was using, and I just set it up. So some of the reverb though is RV7000, but I think the main one that I was using ended up being ROM from Native Instruments. So here's ROM. This is what ROM looks like from Native Instruments. So that one got used a lot in this track. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Okay, cool. So that's all of the question marks that I saw from there. Let me see. Oh man, he found it as soon as if I was just paying attention, I would have saw that. Let's go back to the bottom. Simba, what's up, man? I hope you're doing well as well. Yeah, I'm getting ready to go out here in like 5 minutes. Well, 5 minutes put us at 4 hours? No, but plenty of time. Lunch Money says start a Discord. Can you do a paid Discord? Because that's the only thing that I would do. I would do a paid Discord. If I can create a paid Discord, create a paid Discord. Let me see. Yeah, you can. How to create a paid Discord server, community monthly. Can you make a paid Discord server? Yes, server subscriptions give you the ability to monetize your Discord server by offering members of your community the ability to purchase a monthly subscription to access unique server perks. And depending on how you set them up, exclusive channels to talk in. Yeah, I would do something like that. And then I guess somebody has to tell me why. Lunch Money, are you still here? Somebody have to tell me why. Because I get this a couple of different times. Where people say start a Discord. So it's really just why. Like, I've seen some of the other Discords. All right, so for example, I listen to Joe Budden podcast, and he has a Patreon. And if you are a member of his Patreon, then they give you access to his Discord. And it's not a paid Discord, it's just a Discord. Now, only thing that he does in that Discord is they put when the new episodes drop. So it'll be like a note about when the episodes drop. And then if they drop merchandise, they'll put like discount codes in there, or they'll just put links to buy the merchandise in there. And then there's conversations that are happening, like different users are having conversations, but I've never been in there and like Joe Budden was in there and he was like, "What's up, y'all?" I've never had that. There was another guy on YouTube that made beats. RMC is his name. Bless those keys, RMC. What's up, bro? And I was a part of his Discord, and I remember there was a couple of times when he would just pop in and be like, "All right, y'all, I'm just talking to people, or I'm just, what y'all doing?" Or he'll have like a prompt, he'll say, "Oh, we talking about this today," and if you were in the Discord while he was in there, then you could just talk to him like an open phone line. So I thought that was cool, right? And then there's other people like Curtis King has a Discord. So sometimes he drops stuff in there. Sometimes they share samples with each other through Discord, and stuff like that. So like people will send in loops. He'll go to his Discord to get the loops. And, that's one way that you can submit loops if you want to like make beats with him or collab with him. And other general conversations and, sneak peeks and stuff like that. So I see that there's things that other people are doing, right? And I just always be like, I don't know if I'm there yet. And so we'll just keep going. Maybe at 10,000. At 10K subscribers, 1% of 10K subscribers is 100. So 1K, 10%, what am I saying? At 10K subscribers, I'll start a Discord. And then that way, even if just 1% of people join the Discord, that would be 100 people. And yeah, we'll do it like that. You know what I'm saying? You need time. Exactly. And Chris, I'm already at burnout. You know what I'm saying? I once told myself that, well, no, I'll say it specifically. I'll say it specifically. I was arguing with people back and forth about this. There's not a lot of money at this level of YouTube, y'all. It's not. And I'm very prideful, and I'm trying to just be humble. You know what I'm saying? I'm just doing my thing. A lot of times I'm just having fun, and I'm happy, and I'm glad for the experience. And if there's a way that you can support the channel, please support the channel. You could see a lot, or you could do a lot. A lot more could be done if there was support. These little ads, I'm finna put an ad up right now. These little ads, these little ad dollars don't equate to much. It don't equate to much. When I did the Reason 13 stream, I turned the ads off. I didn't even have ads on, right? And I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna just turn the ads completely off, and you know, not have the little ads pop up at all. And that was fine, you know. Hey, we just hit 7,500. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Super dope. So appreciate y'all for sending the congrats. Can we email you beats for review? I'm a live sound engineer back in the studio making R&B. Yeah, my email is chrisreedbeats@gmail.com. I do have days where I will just like jump on and specifically just listen to beats and songs and stuff like that. Typically they happen on Saturdays. Since I'll have a free Saturday, how about we do that, guys? How about we plan for listen to subscribers on Saturday. We'll have a listen to subscribers live stream on Saturday, because I have an open Saturday this Saturday. So we'll plan for that. As far as like review, it's not really a review when I listen to it or whatever. So it won't be like a review. You feel me? But we'll listen to it together. And if I vibe with it, then I vibe with it, and it's all good. Maybe I'll have some new headphones by then. Or at least some new covers. I think I could just go to Amazon right now and get some new covers. That mess is crazy. All right. Man, that's pretty much it, guys. Shout outs to y'all, man. Thank you for 7,500. Let me see. Is it still up here? Oh, it's not up here. Is it right here? Boom. There we go. Thank y'all for 7,500 subscribers, man. That's super dope. I was definitely in the middle of my little rant, and I know I didn't conclude it. What I was essentially saying is I can only do it as much as there is support to do it. And so the more support that we have for the channel, the more that we can do it. There's not a lot that's happening with it right now, but some of that is, I don't know. I guess some of that is of my own problem or my own issue. I gotta get out of here. Let me see this. I gotta get out of here, cause I gotta see. It's probably gonna take me an hour. I keep putting the wrong thing. Let me see. Do I gotta leave right now? Oh, okay. I can leave. I can leave in 30 minutes. Hey, Thank you, Simba. I appreciate that. That's a good note. That's a good note to head out on. You feel me? That's a good note to head out on. I appreciate that. Thanks so much for you guys coming to check out the stream, man. I appreciate that. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play this music for a little bit. Well, I did want to play it at least one time. Because what I do is I'll go back and I'll listen to the live stream. I'll listen to the part where the beat is playing, and I can never find a part that's like just the beat without me touching and doing stuff. So I'm just gonna let the beat play for a minute, and then I'm gonna cut the stream. So if you guys want to listen to it one more time with the mix and everything that we did to it, then you'll be able to do so. Thank you so much for watching this live stream. I hope that it helped you in some way, shape, or form. I'll be back with more Reason 13 cook-ups, live reviews, and tutorials. My name is Chris Reed. Until next time, peace. And I'll see y'all later. I'm telling you, man. I'm going to purchase me. I'm going to purchase me a freaking thing. She gets